Welcome to the morning sports briefing on New Zealand Sport Radio.
Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Tuesday, the 25th of August. Hopefully your week is going well, folks. Today on the morning sports briefing, Bayern Munich become Champions League champions again. Rain helping Pakistan, Ken Reid to turn out for Counties Manukau. Danny Lee fades in the fourth round. Boston and Toronto advance to the conference semi-finals over in the NBA. Scott Dixon comes second under a yellow flag. That's all in the morning sports briefing this morning. Your best way to start the day up to speed with all the important sports news. And yes, kicking off with that football, Bayern Munich beat Paris Saint-Germain by a single goal over in Portugal to win by just 0-1 in the Champions League final. So congratulations to them. This is the first time we've had two actual league champions in there for a number of years. So yes, it was a real Champions League this year. Don't forget that we have the semi-finals of the A-League taking place on Wednesday evening. Melbourne City will take on Western United and Sydney FC will take on Perth Glory before the grand final takes place on Sunday. I'm going to hand you over to Ashwin. He's going to take us through our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners on the interweb. And yes, as Paul mentioned, rain is helping Pakistan. The weather continues to play a major part in the summer of cricket in England. Overnight, just 56 overs were possible due to the weather. Azhar Ali continued his first innings form, coming out in his regular position in the batting lineup after there was some talk that he might open in the second innings. Pakistan had their best start to the series, but Broad and Anderson have been able to pick up a wicket each, leaving Pakistan on 100 for 2 when play was called off for the day. England won't be too unhappy, as a draw in this test will see them take the series 1-0. While we were on air yesterday, the Guyana Amazon Warriors were playing the St. Lucius Zouks. The Zouks, batting first and struggling early, went on to make 144 for 7, which at the break didn't seem like it was enough. But the Warriors had their fair share of early innings problems when they were just 3 for 7 or 7 for 3, depending on which way around you look at your scores. They didn't look like getting close to the target. They did look like getting close to the target with 3 overs remaining, but ultimately fell short on 134 for 8 after their 20 overs. The Zouks securing their third win by 10 runs. There are no matches being played today. There's a huge amount of work required to work out the logistics for the Australian season. The BBL and international tours having to maintain separate bubbles, larger squads for the international players may need to be used, allowing players involved in touring squads to then isolate and coming into the BBL bubble. The BBL will be running whilst the India tour of Australia carries on, and then Australia will be playing New Zealand. And that's just to name a couple of the international series that will be going on at the same time as the BBL. So there will be some logistical issues in getting players in and around the various competition formats. And speaking of international cricket, as mentioned previously, New Zealand has a bumper season of international cricket scheduled. The finishing touches are being applied to a schedule for the men's tour, which includes the West Indies, 3 T20s and 2 tests, Pakistan, 3 T20s and 2 tests, Australia, 5 T20s, and no summer is complete without Bangladesh coming to tour, and they'll be playing 3 T20s and 3 ODIs. The White Ferns depart for Australia on September 9 to face the world champions over there, but with the World Cup being postponed, New Zealand cricket is working on a series of T20s and ODIs with Australia and England back in New Zealand. And to finish up with a bit of league cricket, this morning, Chris Holliday in the league cricket in England has scored a massive 316 runs off only 113 balls. And then he got abused on social media. Well, it is social media for going on for so long. But to be fair, he did offer to retire when he was on 200, but his team told him to carry on. So, all's fair in love and war, isn't it? And that is our cricket news for this morning, Paul.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. I think there was some sort of record that that his team thought he could achieve, and so they were asking him to keep on going. You've got the record in sight, mate. Go.
Yes.
So I think that was what was, and he was like, "What? Hey." So yes, there we go. Anyway,
Well, as I actually said, to me, it's just like, I would have liked to have bowled to him to see whether you could actually change to rein him in. Would have been a challenge.
It would certainly have been a challenge. That's very true. Very true. But some people who hopefully won't have a challenge today and will have wonderful days are the people that Stephen's going to take us through our birthdays. Let's hope that our birthday people have a wonderful day today.
Sure will, Paul. Nice segue, I've got to say as well. In birthdays today, a name with a continuing All Black tradition, one of the best, or one of the first female elite rugby referees selected to the New Zealand Rugby Football Union, and finally a silver medalist at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, and that's where we start. Georgia Williams, born this day, the 25th of August. 1993, is a New Zealand professional racing cyclist who currently rides for UCI Women's World Team Mitchelton Scott. She competed at the 2014 Commonwealth Games. In 2016, she was part of the New Zealand team pursuit squads at the UCI Track Cycling World Championships and the 2016 Summer Olympics. In February 2017, it was announced that Williams would join Orica Scott for the 2017 season. She won New Zealand's second ever medal in the women's road race at the Commonwealth Games, a silver medal in 2018, after Susie Pride had won New Zealand's first medal at the 1998 Commonwealth Games. Moving right along, we're celebrating some of our women this morning, which is great. Rebecca Mahoney Ni Hull, born this day, the 25th of August. 1983, is a former rugby union footballer and referee. She represented New Zealand and Wellington Rugby Football Union. She was a member of the 2006 Women's World Cup and 2010 Women's Rugby World Cup winning squads. Mahoney was the first of two women to be named in the elite referee squad, the other being Natasha Ganley. So the first of our two female referees, that was Rebecca and Natasha. And finally, Murray Taylor, born this day, the 25th of August 1956, is a retired rugby union player. He played 30 matches for the All Blacks in the late 1970s and early 80s. 7 of these were test matches. He is now living in the Waikato in New Zealand. He is the brother of former All Black Warwick Taylor and the uncle of Tom Taylor, who also played for the All Blacks. So they've got the family tradition. Keeping on. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Moving on then to rugby news, and some news that came out we found out just after the show yesterday, so we just missed out on this one, was that Kieran Reid will be playing for Counties Manukau in the Mitre 10 Cup. He'll be a good, obviously, assuming we were allowed, what's the word I'm looking for? Crowds, that's it. Assuming we're allowed crowds at games, he'll be a good draw. Obviously, for Counties Manukau, ex-All Blacks captain, multiple World Cup winner, all of that kind of stuff. And he'll be turning out for Counties Manukau. The reason being is he has not had rugby for a long time, and being an old fella, well, younger than everyone else on this show, but being so that basically he needs the rugby to keep his body in shape. One of the few players from Japan who has been given release, and also whose insurance is cheap enough that they can be that can be afforded by the provinces. As we've had no news on players like Ben Smith potentially playing for Otago. I know that there have been players for Tasman who they could not afford the insurance costs for them to play. So yes, there are plenty of players from the Japanese league in New Zealand, but we'll see which other ones get released to play Mitre 10 Cup. Talking of rugby here, and the North-South game, which is due to take place this coming weekend on the 5th. Sorry, the week not this coming weekend. To take place on the 5th of October. Or September, sorry, September. 2 weekends time. Get my months in order. So that is due to take place. But There'll still be restrictions on gatherings in Auckland, so expect, as we heard from the government's announcement yesterday, we're expecting New Zealand Rugby to make an announcement today about that game. So listen out for that one, folks. Over in the Rugby Championship, and the Pumas have been gathering to start their preparations for that. For the tournament over here, either in New Zealand or potentially in Perth. Unfortunately, Javier Ortego Decio has tested positive for COVID-19, but thankfully that was found out before he trained with the squad and was in isolation. He was already in quarantine before joining the squad, so obviously he'll remain in isolation now. That 46-man squad is gathering to start preparations, I say, for the Rugby Championship. I'm now going to hand you over to Stephen for the sport that just keeps on giving. It's our NRL update.
Well, I actually had to find something to give this morning because there's not a lot of league news around this morning. So I thought I would take the opportunity just to check on the locker rooms of the Warriors, Broncos, and the Melbourne Storm in terms of coming and goings. And we'll start with the Warriors. Obviously, the Warriors play the Newcastle Knights in Tamworth at Scully Park. That's 5 p.m. New Zealand time on Saturday. And just looking through a little bit of information, lone players George Jennings and Daniel Alvaro were due to return to the Eels, but there have been mixed reports over whether that will take place this week or next week. If the duo do leave, Hayes Perham will likely shift to the wing, and Adam Kigren will line up in the centre if he passes a concussion protocols. If not, Gerard Beale will come into the conversation. Chanel Harris-Tavita will also need to pass the same protocols after a head clash with Kerrigan, and he will slot back into the halves, bumping Paul Turner out of the squad, which would be unfortunate for the young guy. Had a very good debut against the Bulldogs. Jermaine Tonoa Brown will be racing the clock after a rib complaint, but Eliasa Katoa returns from suspension. We move right along to the Brisbane Broncos. It's desperate times for a depleted Broncos outfit. A conditioning coach was reportedly training on the wing in an opposed session earlier in the week. However, for a team that's had no luck lately, the Broncos remarkably came out of the last week's loss with no extra injuries, but more changes to the spine are expected. Sean Sullivan, who has overcome a knee injury, was reportedly training at number 6 during the week, a sign he will be called into partner Tom Dearden in the halves. Anthony Milford left the field early against the Dragons, but it was reportedly to be rested. With O'Sullivan in the mix, the underperforming 5'8" will need to fight for his spot. Isaac Luke is facing a one-match suspension for a dangerous contact charge. Corey Pakes will slot in at a starting hooker. Alex Glenn and Xavier Cates are a chance of returning, but will need to prove their fitness during the week. And finally, we look at the Melbourne Storm, obviously beaten by the Parramatta Eels in their last hit out. Now, the big blow for Melbourne is Brandon Smith, who broke his jaw in last week's match, but Cameron Smith is expected to return. Halves Cameron Munster and Jerome Hughes are also both expected to return from injury. Cooper Johns will be bumped out of the squad, and Riley Jacks will battle with Nico Hines for the utility spot. However, Jacks will have to overcome a hip injury first. Kenny Bromwich sustained a calf injury and is expected to spend 3 weeks on the sideline. Tom Eisenhuth will likely be promoted to the starting side. Albert Vetti and Nelson Asofa Solomona escaped suspension for crusher tackles, but are also fine to play. Jesse Bromwich returns from suspension and will bump Asofa Solomona back to the bench. But I guess the big one for Melbourne Storm is Brandon Smith, who broke his jaw. He's been the outstanding hooker in the NRL. God, he's, for a small guy, he is such a good tackler, aggressive, and not afraid to basically get into contact with a lot of the big guys. So a real big loss for the Melbourne Storm if he is out for the season. But I'll be interested to get Hughes, who tunes into our show's thoughts on that, in and around Brandon Smith being the best hooker in the competition. There are a couple of goodies as well. Back to you, Paul. We'll be back with more league news tomorrow.
You're listening to the morning sports briefing on New Zealand Sport Radio.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that NRL update. Don't forget to join the Standoff Show on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. with Brad and Sanjay, who'll take you through, who'll give you your weekly league fix. Moving on then to the golf. And in the Northern Trust, Dustin Johnson won that one on 30 under par. There you're going to say, I think they set par wrong. If you're going to hit 30 under it, par's supposed to be your average score, but there you go. So 30 under par there on the launch for Dustin Johnson. Danny Lee, who was as high as fourth in that final round, unfortunately faded away and hit 2 over par in the end on that final round to finish 12 under and tied 18th. He had been showing some very good form over the first 3 rounds and early in that fourth one, to climb up to fourth in the ladder there. Hopefully he'll take some good confidence out of that in his future tournaments coming up. Over to the NBA Finals, and Boston Celtics and Toronto Raptors have both swept their series 4-0 and progressed to the conference semi-finals. Interestingly enough, they'll be playing each other at that point, so neither will really have the advantage of resting players over their opposition, as they both will have been able to rest their players there. Miami Heat will be taking on the Indiana Pacers today, and will also have the opportunity to sweep their series as well. Also today, the Rockets will take on the Thunder. That tip-off is at 8 a.m. The Oklahoma Thunder have the chance to even up that series. It's currently 2-1 to the Rockets there. And live right now we have the Bucks versus the Magic. And I'm just refreshing the score right now. It's 81-76 to the Milwaukee Bucks. Sorry. It's not Milwaukee Bucks. It's I've got them. Where were they from again? Bucks the Utah Magic, and the Denver Bucks. If they win that one, they'll have closed the series up to 2-3. Utah currently leading that one at 3-1. Up to 4. There are 4 games a day in the NBA at the moment. So yes, lots and lots of basketball taking place. Also heading over to the Winter Games NZ, and we still are waiting on the Shred the Mountain results, but the first of the footage has come out. Some cracking skiing and snowboarding. As I say, the first one of those is out on their Facebook page, so do go and check that one out. As Team Wells shred Cornet Peak with their video footage. You have now started the day the best way, up to speed with all of the important sports news. Don't forget you can also listen to us on the go. Just download iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favourite podcatcher, and then search for New Zealand Sports Radio. We will be back here at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, because as we come to you 7 days a week with the morning sports briefing. Also, this evening at 8 p.m, we have the basketball show, where Daniel will be catching you up with all of the NBA action. As I say, it's finals time, so there's some great action for him to discuss.